Hey boys and girls, Ken Smith Fishing. So this is a video that I've actually been thinking about a lot, and I've been thinking about it a lot because of what's about to occur. So this is Sunday the 11th when I'm filming this. You guys will see this on Tuesday the 13th. And by the time you see this, I will be actually, probably as you're watching this, I will be in Mountain Home visiting with Rick Pierce and picking up my new Bass Cat Puma STS. So I'm going to I got some questions for Rick. We're going to talk on camera Tuesday morning. I'll have those up for y'all probably a week from Tuesday. We'll have footage of the new boat up. I'm going to leave Mountain Home Tuesday morning, probably late morning. I'm going to drive to Texarkana. I'm going to drop the boat with the boys at Jones. And we're going to basically Tuesday decide what electronics we're going to put on the boat. And as you guys know, actually, before I go any further, I got two things I want to share with y'all. Number one, I posted a short the other day about that 23 model Lew's 7'6" rod that was on sale at Tackle Warehouse, and they had knocked them down to $119, and we sold them out of that. So it was a 7'6", moderate, medium heavy, moderate, fast, and I was tracking it to see how many got sold, and I don't know how many got sold, but we sold them completely out of that rod. But what I then noticed was they have 7 other lengths of that rod in multiple actions, 6'7" to 7'4", from moderate, medium light to heavy, that are now knocked all the way down to $89. So that was a $160 rod. It's almost 50% off. I think those rods will sell out pretty fast. So that's the same rod that I ordered in 2024. They just changed the look of it. It's the same blank. So if you're in the market for it's the Lew's custom speed stick casting rod. I'll put right there. If you just hold your phone up to that QRC code, it'll take you right there. And again, they support the channel when you shop there, and I appreciate that. But that is a great price on those rods. 89 bucks, 90 bucks basically. So I wanted to mention that. And the other thing I wanted to mention, I don't withhold a lot on the channel, and especially when it comes to sponsor baits. And I have not been overly forthright on something. So last year, I think 6 Cents came out with the Duke, and it originally was a 5/8 ounce bait, and like most of the other 6 Cents rattle baits, they run deep. They run a little bit deeper, certainly deeper than a 1/2 ounce trap. Well, they basically run the same depth as a Yozuri does. But they've come out with a 3/8 ounce. It's the Duke 55. It's a little smaller bait. It's a 59 millimeter bait versus a 65 millimeter bait. But it's a 3/8 ounce bait that's got 6s on it. It's got, decent size hooks on it, not giant hooks on it. But it is a bait that has more vibration than a Bill Lewis rattle trap that will run as shallow as a 1/2 ounce Bill Lewis rattle trap. Now it's lighter, but because of the design of it, it's got a lot more vibration, and it will run a little bit deeper. And the reason I'm telling you that, because I got in a little bit of trouble because I kept buying them and not talking about them, and they figure out pretty quick when you're ordering a lot of stuff and not talking about them, you're liking them, and I have been. But also, if you've been watching the Major League Fishing event over on Rayburn the last couple days, they've been catching them. Well, one of the guys was catching them, and he talks about all of his fish were on that bait. That's the reason. So there you go. I'll put a link to that bait as well right there if you guys want to go check that bait out. There's one specific color that I really, really love, and let me tell you what it is real quick. But the color I really like is the boiled crawfish or the brown eye. Those are the two colors that I've been throwing the most. You've seen them in some videos, but I probably haven't mentioned them. I think I might have mentioned them in 1 or 2 of my videos that I was throwing a Duke, but I don't talk about it a lot. And some of it's just an oversight too. I'm not trying to be sneaky by any means. I'm not catching enough fish to be sneaky right now, but I want to share that with you. So back to what I was going to say. So we're going to leave Mountain Home Tuesday. We're going to go to Jones, and we're going to decide there what we're going to put on the boat from an electronic standpoint: trolling motor, batteries, and graphs. And I have always used a Humminbird for mapping. And the more I have thought about this, I really think forward imaging has kind of killed the need for maps. And so I immediately wanted to go back and watch a video clip from my conversation with Todd Driscoll from the Toledo Bend telemetry study where they followed those fish. So I'm going to insert this right here because I think this is something that it's worth revisiting, and also is part what was in the back of my head the whole time I've been thinking about this. So let's check out this clip really quick.
This here really to me is one of the more eye-opening pieces of data we have overall. What type of structure did our fish use, or tracked fish? You know, although we did on a rare occasion find that bass will get out in the middle of nowhere relative to water depths, you know, that only happens very rarely. It seems that in other ways, though, bass at Toledo Bend are commonly in areas that are probably going to get very little to no fishing pressure. You know, when we found these fish, I used 6 different classifications for structure. And that included points, drops, drains, flats, creek channels, and channel swings.
Okay.
Those 6. Overall, when you pool all of our observations together, fish were, I would say, randomly scattered over flats 41% of the time. That was just mind-blowing to me. By far the most common structure. I say common structure, it's really the lack of structure. All the other classifications are structured. The flats, just the random no structure. But yeah, that was the most commonly used structure by definition, was just flats. And these were fish that were most commonly at least 50 yards, but most often 100 yards or more away from the sharp breaks, the points, the drops that we all find on our electronics and go idle.
Those fish are hard to catch.
And yeah, you know, we find fish on that structure, we sure do. But good grief, 41% of the time, our telemetered bass were not on that stuff. They were on the flats, the nothingness. That's where they were. And that's just crazy to me. And remember, you know, the 8 or 9 pounder, that's exactly what it did. Pretty much its entire 1 year of tracking. So, you know, I'm as guilty as anybody. You know, I try to use all the electronics to my utmost advantage. And, you know, I'm out there idling all the tight lines, the hard drops, the hard bottom areas, the points. The points in particular are also surprising, right? I mean, a point to most of us bass anglers just sticks out like a sore thumb. You're not going to go by a point and not idle the tip of it. Most of us don't. But points, where did that rank out? Fish were on points only 10% of the time. And points ranked 5th out of the 6 of the structure classifications. Only channel swings ranked lower.
Now, I don't think the idea of going fishing at a point is dead. Certainly not the idea of going fishing a drain is dead. But so many of these fish, and I personally believe it's mostly fishing pressure. I think, you know, look, there's not a point on Rayburn, in Coleman, in Veach, in Caney, in the deer stand, in the canyons, in Stanley. There's not a point that somebody doesn't make a cast or 100 on a Saturday. There's just not. And most of them have somebody make a cast on them on a Tuesday. And those fish not only get caught, they get run over the top of, they get caught and transported, and eventually those fish change their behavior. They will absolutely change their behavior. And what we have witnessed, and look, we've all known it's been going on for a long time, right? But if you watched the footage from the Major League Fishing event, these young men that are just, I mean, 37 pounds, whatever he had, bunch of 20-pound stringers, nobody fishing other than really maybe Nick LeBrun, and I take that back, maybe the kid who's going to win it. When I'm filming this, I don't know who wins, but Cal Lane, it appears he's cranking either a point or a drain. He doesn't get real specific in the little bit of footage I've watched, but the vast majority of guys are fishing suspended Roman fish, or they're fishing fish that are on brush piles. And if you spend any time on Rayburn and you side scan around, Brush piles are not on points because brush piles on points are found the day they're put down. So guys are being sneaky. They're not being sneaky. They're just putting brush piles in less obvious places. You know, for years we set them. I remember putting them on Cedar Creek. I put it on a point, and I put it where I could line up a fence that ran into the water. I was 100 yards out off that fence, but I didn't have GPS back then. I was just doing it where I knew I could go up and make a cast on it. Well, now I can pull up on a waypoint, scan back and forth, and hit that brush pile very first cast and every cast. And so I personally think that the use of maps is going to continue to decline drastically. Now, having said that, I still want maps I like and I trust, and I've gotten more comfortable with the Garmin maps, but it has caused me to decide that I will not be putting a Humminbird unit on this boat just to have a map on it. And my experience of recent between the Garmin and the Humminbird is there's no comparison in the forward imaging, so it's going to be Garmin's on this boat, and it may be Garmin boxes and some other screens. We'll figure that out this week. I don't know what they have in stock, and I want to get my boat rigged, but it just struck me that these guys, if you look at their front deck, there's 3 units up there, and a number of times there was not a map on any of those 3 units. They don't care where they are. They are just on flats in open water, exactly what Todd talked about. You know, he said 40+% of the fish they found over there were just on random pieces of cover on flats. That's more than any other single piece of structure by a long ways. So what that tells me is that, again, we've all talked about this.
Sorry about that, battery dead. And by the way, let me say thank you right now to Jeff Sherwood of Taos Resorts for connecting me with a new GoPro that I will have very soon. So hopefully all these camera problems I keep experiencing with these old pros will go away. But anyway, so we're going to pick up the new boat. We'll get it rigged this week. I'll be glad to share with you guys what we do. But I really think at some level, the days of staring at a map, of doing map study of all the things that we did for all those years is gone. It's now, I mean, look, I guess there's the point. Why would you stare at a map looking for structure when you go out there and see the structure and see the fish and see how they're reacting? And I mean, I learned a bunch watching these guys this week, just watching them. You know, a couple of those young guys who have spent thousands of hours, way more than I'll ever have the opportunity to spend with LiveScope, talking about how they see these fish move and set up as they're getting ready to spawn, is all stuff that we guessed at. So I can't wait to get my new boat, get out on the water with my new stuff, and get to go fishing again, kind of in my own time frame, and go where I want to go. And we'll be back doing that real soon and sharing that trip with you guys. So again, those 2 links were a little bit earlier. Those luge rods, that's a great deal at $90 a pop. And there's a bunch of those Dukes in the 5/8 and the 3/8 ounce available. So thanks for tuning in, guys. And I'll have some footage with Rick up with you real soon. And actually, I'll post some of the stuff that I do up there this week on Instagram. So if you've never checked out my Instagram, it's right there on the screen. Check out my Instagram, or there'll be a link in the description down there below as well. So again, thanks guys for tuning in. We'll see y'all soon.